Good afternoon, everybody. I can see most attendees have arrived now, so I guess we can start. My name is Inge Vollebrecht. I am a marketing manager at iMore, and I will facilitate today's webinar. First of all, I would like to welcome you all and say something about the tool that we are using today, which is GoToWebinar. Should you have any questions, please use the question panel. We might not answer them right away, but we'll make sure we will do so during the webinar. And although you are muted, there is a chat panel that you can use to speak your mind. That being said, I would like to give the word to Melvin Vis. He's a lead consultant APM at iMore, and he will be our host for today. Melvin, the floor is yours.
Hi Inge, thank you for the nice introduction. As Inge already told you, I am Melvin Vis. I'm the lead consultant APM at iMore, and I've been invited by Inge thanks to both my successful Dynatrace experience at our bigger customers and my level of Dynatrace certification. Today, I hope to give you insights on how Dynatrace can help you in monitoring the quality of your SaaS applications. Luckily, I am not going to do this alone. Together, joined by Henk-Jan de Jong from Dynatrace, we will do this presentation. Today, we'll discuss, the webinar will consist out of 2 points. The first part is a small kickoff about iMore, today's world where some challenges arise, and finally we'll discuss 3 practical scenarios. The second part consists of a live demo given by Henk-Jan from Dynatrace with a closing summary in our takeaways. Of course, there will be room for questions and answers in between each part. Now, without any further ado, let's dive into about iMore. iMore is a company which was founded in 2003, and we have joined the Sentia family last year in 2019. The iMore company specializes in performance issues because critical business processes are IT run. Operations are data-driven, and the stakes are high because users expect nothing less than a great performance and uptime for your systems. Here is a small snapshot of the top 500 companies in the Netherlands and the other big companies which iMore services. In order to solve their performance challenges, iMore has a set of software partners whom create the best fit tools to solve the challenges our customers face. Today, we'll be focusing on Dynatrace because it's the best fit to monitor the quality of SaaS applications. Dynatrace is industry proven, and Dynatrace has been named the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for application performance monitoring for the 10th consecutive time, a real feature. Dynatrace, in short, is a passive tool, which means that it is actively listening to everything that happens in your environment. But the tool itself does not create any activity or traffic. It's merely listening. Dynatrace is a passive monitoring tool which we implement at our technically more mature clients due to the sheer level of data that Dynatrace creates. More about the data in Dynatrace later when Henk-Jan is giving his presentation. Let's move on to today's world. It will be of no surprise to you that in this Corona crisis, most of our company forces are working decentralized. People cannot go to the office and are working from home, which means that communication between all these different teams is going a bit slower, which means that once there are disruptions, it will result in problems with a bigger impact compared to, let's say, half a year ago. Because half a year ago, during your optimal business hours, you could just go to a team and ask for their help. Now you need to call somebody, see if they're not in a meeting, make sure they actually get your message, and then start scaling up. Because everyone's working decentralized, we need to make sure that the end user or business insights are gathered. Because right now, you can't ask people how it's going. People will do their work, and if they face problems, they might be less productive. Furthermore, we also see in IT systems or environments is that there is a change in direction towards SaaS applications. Why? Well, we see an increase of complexity of the IT systems as a challenge. There is a lot happening. Users have smaller windows to be productive. As I said in the previous slide, the users are working from home. Often they have to deal with kids, or they have to share a smaller space together with their partner in order to work. Furthermore, end users are experiencing problems while systems are running fine. The systems might not actually be running fine and end users still have problems, but we can't see them without the end user insights. And in order to tackle the complexity of IT systems, companies are adapting SaaS platforms, which is great. But sometimes the companies have no direct control over the SaaS platform. In today's webinar, we are going to show you how you could tackle these problems in monitoring your SaaS platforms, even though you might have no direct control over them. If we are talking about SaaS applications, you can think about companies as such as Salesforce, G Suite from Google, but also Dutch companies like Exact, Centric, and other worldwide players like SAP, or even Microsoft Office 365, which runs fully in your browser. Before we start off and dive in on how to monitor it, let's discuss what exactly SaaS is. If we look at the classic model on-premise, we see a whole stack of topics that we are managing. You, as a company, might have a whole network layer and a whole virtualization layer in order to run your applications to serve your customers. This is what we call an on-premise situation, which is also the classical situation. If we move one to the right, if we shift one row to the right, we have an infrastructure as a service level, where you have a supplier which serves you a networking, storage, server, and virtualization layer. That way, you only have to worry about OS, middleware, runtime, data, and applications, which reduces your complexity but increases the dependency of towards your vendors. If we move one other tier to the right, we have platform as a service, where again, your vendor manages a larger part of the responsibilities, and you only manage the applications and the data. That means that you have no full control over the runtime and lower levels, but it can be a great opportunity if you want to have less complexity in your environment. You can think about Azure Web App Platforms or AWS Beanstalk. And if we come to the last level, which is called software as a service, your vendor basically manages everything for you. You don't have to worry about anything except for the content and the context of your application. What are you going to serve your customers? What will they see? For examples in like SharePoint or Jira or Confluence, you can fill them with your own data, but you're bound to the application the supplier provides. Today, we are going to discuss 3 scenarios within this model. The first scenario we'll discuss is how to actually monitor software as a service. The second scenario will be platform as a service. And the third scenario will be around infrastructure as a service and on-premise. As you can see, we will dive down from a vendor manage everything point towards a point where you manage everything more. So let's dive into the SaaS scenario. In order to manage the challenges for the SaaS platform, we need 2 things. The first one is objective insight from an end user perspective. Are my users getting the performance my supplier promised? And secondly, we need to be able to perform domain isolation. Well, what is domain isolation? Domain isolation means that we can pinpoint a problem to either, for example, the user or to the system behind. Because without domain isolation, we cannot start looking into the issue. Well, how would we do this? Well, our advice would be to implement a lightweight solution inside the application context, which is the top layer here. Monitor the information on the device of the end user. So for example, a lot of people are working on their own laptops or desktops from home, but we want to monitor from that starting point, because then we know exactly how the user experiences the response times. And the third point is extract the client or custom site metrics. So we are monitoring it from their side, and we are getting the metrics that are important for them. And finally, we'll create insight based on those metrics. What or how the insights exactly look will be discussed in the demo together with Henk-Jan. But before we continue, I would like to show you how it is doable in Dynatrace, how we actually add the code. By adding one line of code, which has different types. This is the asynchronous one, which has less performance impact. But by adding this to your application context, we can already monitor from any point. And this is only one line of code. So once you have your Dynatrace environment, you add this line of code, you update it to the HTML, and then we're good to go. That's how easy it is to monitor an application which you are not directly controlling. So let's move on to the PaaS scenario. We have some additional challenges here because we manage more building blocks. Right now, the application and the data building block are within our responsibility. In order to guarantee the quality of the platform, we need additional insights. As in the SaaS environment, we still require objective insights on end user perspective because it's still all about our users. How are they experiencing the performance? Additionally, we require precise and automated root cause analysis to keep the operational efficiency on a healthy level. We don't want to look for problems ourselves. We want to make sure that the tool that we are using is actually telling us where can we find issues. And we're also responsible for the code that's running. So that means that we also need code level insights. Something changes in your deployment or your code or a library is updated, we'll need to know. So what means this for our how? How are we going to do this? Well, we are still going to collect the metrics from an end user perspective, but additionally, we need to collect code level information from the applications. And Jan will show you later on how we can add an agent to collect the code level information from the applications and how to visualize them. Now, if we add the collection of this data, what does Dynatrace add? Well, it adds all the benefits from the previous slide. As I discussed, we can see everything in the scope of the end user, so the objective insights and the domain isolation. But right now, we can also monitor for events or change management. We have a foundation for self-healing systems because we know when something did change and what you need to do in order to revert the change. And last but not least, we have objective data on the impact of changes. So we know what impact the change had over time. If we move to the last scenario, which is on-premise or infrastructure as a service, we have even more building blocks. For the infrastructure as a service, there's still 4 blocks which are managed by our vendor. But for on-premise, you might be responsible for everything. So what do we need to do in order to monitor all these building blocks? Well, we still need to guarantee end user performance, no matter what. We need also to manage more building blocks. So how can we do that? Well, we need to increase our efficiency using automations. We need automation because there are too many moving parts and responsibilities to share. By automating, we can forget about the task and let our automated systems execute them. This frees up our workload and makes sure we can focus on developing our platform. So how can we do this automation and based on what? Firstly, we're going to incorporate infrastructure data. That means that from the lower stack, from networking, all the way up to OS will be collected. Secondly, we're creating insights into application performance. As the same with the PaaS solution, we are going to look at the code level visibility and we are going to make sure that the end user performance is included. These 2 streams of data will be combined to create a full stack overview for precise and automated root cause analysis. This way, Dynatrace as a tool creates a full-length overview for your environment and also the experience your users are having. Before we jump in the demo, and Henk-Jan will actually show you how Dynatrace does this, I'd like to check whether there are already questions so far about the scenarios or about our solutions.
Yes, Melvin, there is one question. Does this also apply for SharePoint? And if so, how does this work?
Great question, Inge. So with SharePoint, it's that you have the SharePoint portal and that you don't have full control about the content. But the control you do have is about the page content. So when there is a new page or space created in SharePoint, you can add the 1 line of code I've shown you previously. And when the page is loaded in and built up, Dynatrace will be loaded in and we can see the response times per page. Does this answer your question? Does this answer the question, Inge?
I hope so. If not, I will hear it soon enough. Thank you.
Any other questions so far?
No, currently no more questions.
Okay, great. Then I would like to pass the torch to our co-presenter Henk-Jan de Jong from Dynatrace.
So welcome all. My name is Henk-Jan de Jong. I'm a sales engineer with Dynatrace, and I'm supporting my friends at Eimer today with this webinar. I will take you through a short demo of the platform, and if you want more information on the specific or any other issues or questions, feel free to use the webinar chat channel for that. Well, SaaS, monitoring SaaS, like Melvin stated, SaaS monitoring is needed because you want to be able to come up with domain isolation in times of trouble. What does this look like in Dynatrace? So what we see here is a dashboard. Specifically, I've created a dashboard here for SaaS apps, and what we see here is a world map. Which represents the AppDex score that needs a little bit explanation. AppDex is an international standard for measuring application performance from an end user perspective. So what we see here, for instance, is that Australia is performing poorly and the rest of the world showing green. So it looks good. From another angle, we look at the number of loads, the load numbers on the application. So we see that Australia again is pretty dark. So it's busy in Australia, and this has an impact on performance. One other thing that is important for SaaS solutions is measuring third parties, because I think maybe most of the SaaS solutions use external libraries, what we call third party to the SaaS platforms. These typically use maybe JavaScript libraries from external sources or fonts or that type of stuff. So we collect those as well. We analyze those, because if they are slowing down, your SaaS application is slowing down, and this is also sometimes very handy in domain isolation. So how does this work? Melvin explained. You add a small script code to your application, and then all the data is flowing into Dynatrace. So we can show you this. What we also focus on is web application performance in this aspect. So what we see here is a performance analysis for the application easytravel.com, assuming that's a SaaS application. We see some statistics on what browsers we have, so Chrome browsers, some measurements on the load actions, and this is what we see here in the action duration. We also see some details on errors and the AppDex rating. Another angle is user behavior. So, for instance, what we looking at here is like the bounce rate, other actions, exit actions, and of course the overall conversion. So that is what we will give you in terms of insights in SaaS applications. But SaaS is obviously not the only infrastructure you guys use. So we also have EAS PaaS dashboards in here, and I will take you through those here. So for EAS and PaaS, and also for on-premise, I'll combine them maybe. Let's see how this works out. But what we have is an installation for one agent. We use the one agent to collect metrics from the platform, from your platform. So, for instance, I'll show you here how this works for Linux. It's basically a couple of lines of commands, which you can put in the command lines. This will download the agent version, and this is also a pre-compiled version for this platform. So once the one agent starts, it will automatically connect to your platform and automatically distribute the data, the metrics data. So all the let's say performance data, CPU metrics, memory, but also response time data, performance data, into the platform, so we can use that for the dashboarding. So basically copy and paste a few lines and it will be installed. This is also perfectly scriptable, so it's very fast. Let's see if we can get back to the dashboard. Yeah, there we are. What we also see here is some dashboards on service health. So these are services that are either in our IaaS platform or our PaaS platform, or on-premise. We show you the same dashboards throughout the infrastructure. So from the Dynatrace perspective, it doesn't really matter if it's SaaS or IaaS or even on-premise. From a performance perspective, obviously, we do know that it's a SaaS platform, so we can also come up with intelligence here in this aspect. What the One Agent also does is, for these metrics with the data, it also gives the data back to the central platform, and in the platform is an AI, and the AI will come and play later on in some nice features. But for the time now, let's have a look at let's say, for instance, the travel customer front end. Today's world is probably more and more run through APIs, and this is one of the API services that is part of the front end. Show some data there. So what we see here, we see that there's two applications running. It runs on Tomcat. We see some failure rates here, some errors, but most interesting is that the AI was able to come up with a nice overview of how this service fits into our infrastructure. And again, what we see here is all the services that are used for this custom front end. And from our perspective, it doesn't matter that this service here is running on a VMware environment in Azure or in AWS or whatever, or on-premise. For us, it's just part of the application, and therefore it's important. What we also have with this approach is that we have one dashboard for all technologies. So we see all our hosts, and these are all our hosts in the entire infrastructure. So we have in this tenant, we have some AWS services, some Azure in here, Kubernetes, some Docker, and we see it all in all these tiles. So as I said, in the core, we have an AI. So the AI analyzes all the metrics we give it through the One Agent. It also analyzes code level info, performance of code, and also creates automatic baselines. So the interesting of this, and also of course the dependencies which I showed you in the service flow. This is a crucial asset for monitoring in modern and growing complex environments, because we can't even see all the dependencies as a human. It's applications are growing way too complex. So one of the nice features this gives us is automatic root cause analysis reporting. We call this easily here in the problem style. So what we see here now is we have no problems. But if I go back, let's say last 24 hours, we see that we've had some problems here, and we can all go back in time and analyze those. So I'll take this one, and what we see here is a problem. This is a root cause analysis. So we see the applications that are impacted on the left. We see here the AI, so the dependencies that are checked by the AI. We see here the business impact, so 237 users were impacted, and a number of service calls. We also see here that it was open for 34 minutes and that real users were affected. So there's a list of the applications impacted, and this over here is the root cause. So what is the root cause is basically this custom service is slowing down, and it also says that here. So on the bottom of that, there's also some interesting stuff going on in the code level. I will not take you through that now, but we have the details there. One thing I do want to show you is the visual resolution path. What we see here on the start is a green system. Everything's fine, but then we see problems occurring. So what we see here on the right are events, alerts. This is what your people will typically get in their mailboxes, but they're not specifically related to the problem. So they have to investigate themselves that, let's say this service, where is it actually taking place in the application chain? What application is it actually servicing? So we do that automatically out of the box. This is all done automatically. And yeah, we can see here the progress of this problem. And finally, we see that it resolved itself. So this is very nice, I think. This concludes my part of my demo. I will now hand over to Inge.
Okay, thank you. I do see some questions coming in. So Henk-Jan, are you still there?
I'm still back. I'm back.
You're back. Okay. One question. What about GDPR?
GDPR. We take GDPR very seriously, but I have to say that we actually don't collect any personal data. We collect only metrics. So no usernames, no email addresses, just metrics. We also have a specific section on our website for this. I will paste the URL in the chat box for your convenience. You can read all about it.
Yes, please do. Thank you. And the next question is, does this also work for dynamic landscapes with containers and such?
Yeah, well, dynamic, let's assume, let's say the containerized environments like Docker, Kubernetes, or Cloud Foundry. It's really built for that, because those are typically the environments that you want to have monitored automatically, because containers pop up and they shut down based on a free will sometimes, but usually based on load. Which means that if you have an issue in a specific container, you will have to be able to go back in time, look back in time, and see what actually was the root cause for that issue. We can deliver that. We can actually help you go back in time, fix your issues, and yeah, prevent them from occurring again.
Okay, thanks. Then I guess we can go back to Melvin.
Okay, bye-bye all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Henk-Jan, for the great demo. In order to conclude this summary, let me share my screen again. Here we go. In order to do a short summary for this webinar, we want you to have the following takeaways. In order to keep control of the quality of your SaaS applications, you will require insight into end user experience. And rolling out this solution should be a lightweight one. That means that we can create value very swiftly and it does not negatively impact the performance of your end users. Furthermore, the solution should be able to create full observability in your environment, so event management can be configured properly. This enables you to collaborate with your vendors, because if they don't have the proper monitoring enabled, you will see issues faster than them due to your automated root cause analysis. This ultimately gives you perfect control over the quality of your SaaS applications. iMore chose Dynatrace because it's the best APM tool in the market. It's like I said at the beginning, it's industry proven, and Dynatrace has been named leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for application performance monitoring for the 10th consecutive time. Dynatrace enables companies to install it either with 1 line of code or 3 lines of script in order to install the agent. Then the tool automatically creates the full observability for us without any configuration. As a result, additionally, we get automated root cause analysis, which enables our biggest customers to get a return on investment sometimes on the same day, making sure that their workloads are focusing on developing the platform and not only watching over the platform and making sure it's up. We have to make sure that the client can completely focus on developing. And with that, these are my closing words for this webinar, and we are very interested in your questions, comments, or interests in customized advice. For your follow-up questions, you can contact Inge. Her email address is in the screen, and she will also send you an email after the session, and she will make sure that the right person will contact you to answer your questions completely. I would like to thank you, and I'm wondering whether there are any additional questions, Inge?
No more questions right now. So I guess your story was clear.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
Thank you very much, Melvin. I will now end the webinar. And as Melvin said, should you have any questions or comments, please let us know. Thank you for attending.